Well, good morning to our listening audience. My name is George Smith. I have the pleasure of serving as the director of Michigan State University AgBioResearch. And I'm here today with my good friend Mary Kelpinski, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Michigan Pork Producers Association. We're going to have a great conversation about the pork industry in the state of Michigan and the important role that Michigan State University plays in meeting the needs of pork producers in the state. So with that, Mary, welcome. Look forward to the conversation.
Thanks for having me and giving me this opportunity. It's always great to talk to you, George.
So as we start to dive in, can you tell us a little bit about the Michigan Pork Producers Association, what the goals are of your organization, who's a part of it, and then just a little bit more about your industry in Michigan and what makes it special?
Great. Yeah, we have a thriving pork industry in Michigan, I think. We produce about 2.5 million hogs annually. So it's a big contributor to the economy in Michigan. We've got about 2,000 pig farms across the state. And as a Michigan Pork Producers Association Board of Directors, we have representation from all segments of the pork industry. And I think that's really important. We say we've got about 80% of the hogs to 80% of the hogs that are produced in Michigan are represented on our board of directors. So that means we've got a couple of the largest farms, but we also have farms all the way down to a couple that just have show pigs. And so we try to represent the youth side of the pork industry also. We see that not everybody's going to grow up and be a pig farmer, but they're always going to be a consumer of pork. And so that's really our goal, is to represent all of the pork industry and make sure that we have consumers of pork and that we're allowed to continue to raise pigs in Michigan. So our goal is just to continue to raise a healthy protein source in an environmentally friendly manner, taking care of our farms and families, and feeding not only Michigan but all of the United States and the world as economically and efficiently as we can.
Yeah, thanks, Mary, for that insight. And with the new dietary guidelines and food pyramid, the contribution of your industry and others to helping, this country be healthy, eat healthy isn't going to do anything but grow in the future. So I think I've known you and worked with you for well over a decade, maybe close to 15 years now. And I really appreciate your vision and your insight and your dedication to your industry and Michigan agriculture as a whole. So during your time working in Michigan agriculture, what have you noticed about MSU research and how it contributes to the goals of your industry and animal agriculture as a whole?
Sure. Well, I think the relationship has grown a lot closer. I know since I took over as the CEO of Michigan Pork Producers Association, I think we've gotten to work together more and more. And I have really seen the research grow at Michigan State, serving on the MAAA committee to review the research proposals and also being contacted by researchers to ask for input and letters of support. I was really amazed at how many more researchers reached out to me this year. So I think that's a perspective of looking at the university and seeing maybe some more emphasis and importance put on our industry. We've had a few retirements in the past, and we've been doing a lot of hiring of new faculty people that have been involved in the pork industry, both nationally and internationally. And it's nice to bring them to Michigan State and expand our swine industry and the research that's being done at Michigan State. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, fantastic. And we're going to delve in a little bit deeper to the topic of the Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture later in the conversation, because there's a lot of great things to talk about in terms of the partnership and the
Mhm.
success of that program and its importance for the future. So, thinking a little bit more about how the Michigan swine industry has benefited from research conducted at MSU, are there any specific examples you can share that are noteworthy?
Sure. Well, I think recently, we've seen so many changes in the pork industry, and like many agricultural groups, we are finding it hard to find all the labor that we need on the farm. And so Michigan State has really stepped up in some of the research they're doing of looking at AI, for instance, and ways that we can save, that we can still take care of our animals, make sure we're managing things appropriately with fewer staff people on the farm. And so I know the university has done a lot on machine learning and artificial intelligence, and just being able to take that research from the university and apply it on the farm. So that's been really exciting. We've also worked a lot with the university and MSU Extension on being prepared if we have a disaster, an emergency, or a foreign animal disease that breaks in the state. We've worked extensively with Extension to build some emergency response trailers that we can deploy if we have animals that are involved in a transportation emergency. And so those have been really important to our industry. We were fortunate back in 2017 to get a large pork processing plant built in Michigan. And so that means there's probably more livestock moving around the state, and pigs are one of those species that are moving around. And so the university has taken it on to not only equip some trailers around the state. I think we've got 9 of them now around the state that can respond to an emergency, but they're also educating the emergency responders. It's great to have the equipment that we need, but we all know that the average Michigander doesn't know very much about livestock handling, and livestock handling during an emergency. And so MSU Extension has gone out and held meetings where they bring fire department people, I think police responders, and different emergency responders in for a day of training and classroom training, and then they actually go out and work with livestock. And so those have been deployed, unfortunately, several times throughout the state, and I've heard really positive feedback about the responses that they've had having those trailers available and the trained staff. So that's one of the big ones. And
Mhm.
um, we're also working with MSU and MSU Extension and the Department of Agriculture to respond to foreign animal disease, and making sure not only with foreign animal disease, but even with endemic diseases, that our farms are as biosecure as possible. And so working through MSU Extension and the Department of Agriculture and our organization, we've been able to help farmers take a look at their farms and figure out if there's ways that they can do things a little differently to keep disease out of their farm and to reduce the incidence of spread of disease. And so developing secure pork supply plans and biosecurity plans for farms has been something that the university has really helped us with, and we've been very appreciative.
Yeah, Mary. So what a great set of examples, that are relevant to your industry and also relevant to others, talking about the challenges that agriculture faces right now with labor issues and the challenges with immigration policy going on, the amount that Michigan producers have to pay their, ag laborers, and they deserve a living wage, but it's hard to compete
Mhm,
with
mhm,
other countries, and we really need solutions. And one of the solutions is new technology, like you referred to, using
sure.
tools like artificial intelligence and machine learning to develop ways to still manage, a swine herd effectively, but with less labor, less boots on the ground necessary to do that. Everyone wins, and in the process, thinking about the next generation of the labor force that's going to be vested in agriculture, we've got to change the way we do things. So the more technology we can introduce
Mhm,
and expose the next generation to, the greater likelihood is we're going to have the folks vested in agriculture that want to make a career out of agriculture. Because as we all know, there's less people growing up on a farm than there certainly was back when I was a horse roamed the earth. And and talking a little bit more about the program, emergency response to accidents involving livestock, I really want to give a shout out to the Michigan pork producers, because you were instrumental in really helping get this program off the ground, which actually traces back to, in its origin, Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture grant that really helped get it started. And what an important program. I can't imagine the numbers of livestock that are on the interstates, on our roads in Michigan on a daily basis, but it's not small by any means.
Mhm.
And our first responders, they're not accustomed to working with livestock. So anything we can do to train them and provide the tools is going to help keep our first responders safe and also help the animals that are impacted by these accidents as well. So another very, very impactful program that's got national attention where MSU Extension is kind of really leading the way. And I know our Pork Producers Association was instrumental in getting this program started and really proud of the success that's resulted from that. And foreign animal diseases. You got me wound up a little bit here, Mary. There's lots good to talk about. I don't want to even stop to think about the impact if a disease like African swine fever made it across the border into this country. It's frightening for our pork supply. It's frightening for food security and it's frightening for our producers. So this work that's being done in advance is going to position the pork industry in Michigan and similar programs with other animal agriculture industries as well to be able to respond and be prepared if um, what we hope doesn't happen actually does happen at some point
Mhm.
in time. And the scary part is African swine fever is not that far away now. So anything we can do to help your industry be prepared is incredibly, incredibly important.
Yeah, we agree. That's the one thing that keeps me awake at night. It's, we keep talking about not if, but when a disease
Yeah.
comes to this country, being as prepared as possible and trying to get our producers to, they're all real busy and they don't want to take the time to, step outside of the box a little bit. But through some of the work that we've done with the university and Department of Agriculture and ourselves, we've been able to get packages together so that producers don't have to put a lot of time into developing a plan. We have some plans that they can work off of for a starting point.
Mhm.
So we really, appreciate that ability to work with you guys and do that.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's talk a little bit more about the Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture. I know it's a program that's near and dear to my heart, one of several
Mhm.
special programs at Michigan State University that's stakeholder driven and designed to meet the needs of our partners in the agriculture industries, in this case, animal agriculture. Tell us a little bit about your experience serving on the MAAA committee over the past years and that partnership, how the animal ag and allied industries really work together with the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development to holistically address the immediate needs of Michigan animal agriculture.
Yeah, well, I think you just hit the nail on the head, the immediate needs. It's really nice. Every year it kind of starts with us going, meeting with our board and deciding what are our priorities? What research, what issues are we having right now in the pork industry that could be addressed with research? And so that's the driving force is that we're the ones that are kind of setting those priorities and setting those research initiatives and then passing them out to the university researchers to find out what um, research ideas they have that could help solve some of these problems we're experiencing. And so that's been really great to have that relationship. And then, going through and reviewing all of the research proposals. I don't know how many we've gotten in this year, but we are getting ready to sit down as a committee to review them and to really talk to all of the industries and figure out what are the priorities that we need to address. And it's wonderful that we can get support from the state to help fund this research. We wouldn't be able to do it without the support that we've had from the state, but there's always the ask is always greater than the dollars that are
Mhm,
available. And so really
mhm,
trying to figure out
mhm,
what issues need to be addressed with what funding we have is important. And I always look forward to that time together. It's an opportunity to learn not only what research is being done in my industry, but also what's being done in other livestock industries. And, maybe some of that could apply to our industry. And some of them
mhm.
research projects do address multiple species. So yeah, it's interesting. And I say with the university, there's no other entity out there that's going to give us really non-biased research. It's not directed at selling a product or selling, a technology, a copyrighted technology. It's really working with researchers that are developing everything, and so that non-biased approach is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. This is such a unique program, and in my job, I have the opportunity to travel and talk to others in similar jobs. And what we have here in Michigan is really special. And this program is one example of what
Mhm.
makes Michigan agriculture special. This is fundamentally in every way, shape, and form, a stakeholder-driven program.
I couldn't say any better than that. I think that when I talk to my counterparts in different states, they're somewhat jealous of what we have here in
Mhm.
Michigan because
Right.
I think all of our industries work well together. All the livestock industries, like we said, we sit down and we all go
Uh-huh.
over the priorities and see
Uh-huh.
what the industries really need. And the relationship that we have with Michigan State University is phenomenal, and the Department of Agriculture too, so that
Uh-huh.
we're all on the same page
Uh-huh.
and working together instead of fighting inside.
Yeah. So yeah, amen to that. Spot on. The industry sets the priorities. The faculty have the opportunity to write grants to address those priorities. Industry is involved in reviewing the proposals and making funding decisions. And it really is a partnership. Those proposals that get funded are those that will have the biggest impact on Michigan agriculture, regardless of the species. And that sense of partnership and cooperation, really advancing the goals of Michigan agriculture as a whole, again, is what makes Michigan special. So I couldn't be more proud of this program. And, you know, it's had a huge impact and going to have even bigger impact in the future. And the Michigan Pork Producers Association are a founding partner in this
Mhm.
effort and been really instrumental in the success of this program. That's really is critical to agriculture in Michigan as a whole. So so let's talk about that through a little bit different lens. You touched on this. Funding is always a challenge. We're in a tight funding climate, but this is a program that has a clear, demonstrated, significant return on investment. So, talk about what it would mean to your industry and animal agriculture in the state if the Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture was no longer funded and went away.
Well, it would be difficult, that's for sure. Michigan Pork Producers Association is not a large association, and we don't have a lot of funding. Our funding comes from a national pork checkoff, and it really doesn't allow us to spend a whole lot on research. And so we really do look to the university. There are national organizations do research nationally, which certainly is a benefit to the pork industry, but having Michigan State University and having the ability to have state specific research done is really important. One thing that I hadn't touched on earlier was some of the research that Michigan State has done on group sow housing. We had a law that passed, it became active in 2020 that required us to house our sows differently. And we had to house them in more group settings. And that raises a lot of concerns when you hear the phrase boss hog, and pigs really are territorial. And really, when you put them in a group together, they will fight and set it, figure out their dominance. And so some of the research that Michigan State University has done at the swine farm and through some of the MAAA dollars have helped us look at how we can house our sows to follow the law that we have in Michigan. And all the states have different laws. And so needed something that was specific to Michigan. And so some of this research has really helped us out and helped us remain competitive in the pork industry nationally here in Michigan. And we appreciate that working arrangement that we have.
Yeah, great example, Mary, about one of the many reasons the Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture program is so important because it is focused on needs of the industries in Michigan. and provides the funding on an annual basis to address those short-term problems that are impacting our stakeholders in the pork industry and other animal agriculture industries. And those priorities can't always be addressed solely through national funding. And to deliver the results that our producers need here in Michigan to allow our animal agriculture industries, I don't want to say just survive, although depending on the year, that may be the outcome, but to actually grow and be profitable in the future and contribute to our rural economy, rural communities, that state investment is having a huge, huge impact. And each and every one of our partners in MAAA can attest to that. And you've done that very,
Mhm.
very well in our conversation today. So as we start to wrap things up a little bit, tell us what you'd like to see from MSU research in the future to support your industry.
Sure. Well, as I mentioned before, the industry keeps changing and keeps improving what we're doing. We're not necessarily raising more hogs. We're raising the hogs we have more efficiently, and so with those efficiencies comes different issues in the feeding, the genetics, and the housing of the animals. And so to be able to remain profitable, our pork producers have to use that new technology to improve the way they raise hogs. And so I know we've got some really exciting information on nutritional additives to diets. One of the things we look at in the pork industry and all of animal agriculture is decreasing our reliance on antibiotics and cutting back on the antibiotics that we feed to our pigs to keep them healthy. And so some of the research they're doing at the university and some of the proposals that I've read for this year address different um, uh, additives that we can use that are not antibiotics and wouldn't have any impact on the human antibiotic resistance. And so making sure that we are doing everything possible to raise a healthy protein for consumers is really important to us. And so some of the research that's being done at the university is really cutting edge research that it might take a couple years before it gets down to the farm, but they're getting it started here and they're reaching out. And it doesn't always, some of the research proposals that I read are like, surprising me at some of the ideas that these researchers are coming up with. But the research that's being done at the university, they are able to fine tune it. And like I said, in a few years, it'll probably end up on our farms. And so it's really important that we have the researchers at the university doing this type of process to help our farmers along in the future.
Yeah, well put, Mary. I couldn't say it better. So, but I will assure you and our other partners in sure in the state of Michigan and the agriculture industries as a whole that we will remain committed to our mission, working in partnership with you to conduct research that will have an impact and really make a difference for agriculture in the state. And now more than ever, it's all about impact and our ability to have an impact and help ensure a bright future for agriculture and growth in the number two contributor to the state's economy. Um, the Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture is really central to those efforts. So it's a proven program that's been in existence for
Mhm.
about a decade. And I think the numbers speak for themselves. The success stories speak for themselves. So, but we're not going to take it for granted. And working with your industry and others, we're going to continue to tell the message of why that's such an important program to the future of agriculture in this state of Michigan. Well, it's been a great conversation, Mary. Always a pleasure. Any
Mhm.
final comments you want to share before we sign off?
No, I think the future looks great, and I think the information coming out from the university is really helping that future look brighter and brighter all the time. So I enjoy working with you, George, and the Ag Bio Research Group and all of Michigan State University. Go green!
Go white. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.